Dobré ráno.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, distinguished guests, and dear friends. A very warm welcome to Bratislava at this very important conference, Central Europe Navigating the Geopolitical Storm. How can European citizens engage the next decade? It is a great honor for me to welcome you here. My name is Mario Nicolini, and I'm delighted that I can guide you through the individual parts of the conference. I see many known faces here, and I'm very pleased that you have joined us again. I would like to ask you, well, we are sitting as if at school, so please, those you are in the very back, could you come closer? Mario, I can see you at the end. Could you please come closer to us to the front so it's full here in the front? My name is Mario Nicolini, and I am here representing as well Confident Slovakia, an online community and social networks. It has 20,000 members who participate in our discussion forum, who trust that it is very important to be a patriot without any hatred. It is very important so that our citizens feel themselves connected and trust that international institutions are able not only to survive throughout the storm, but to assist individual countries, but also individual citizens. And this is a key moment. We are facing continuously more uncertain world, and our fundaments are being challenged by the changes in global politics, spreading of disinformation, and the very importance of sorting global crisis. And these worries are not only felt in Europe, but across the world. Despite the collective West, as we call it, and its effort, there is a real fear in our region that history might be repeated, that our region will become the battleground for superpowers. We are worried by manipulated information and growing distrust into institutions. Despite that, there is a significant call to action, understanding that we are not only passive observers of the events. We are inspired by Edgar Morin and his concept of complex thought. And so we are here to search for solutions which may take into consideration different positions, opinions, and we trust in the strong force of citizens and democratically elected representatives in facing our future, as we have to find the ways how to support and strengthen societal cohesion, how to combat these threats and support culture which is being heard by people, which searches for dialogue and joint solutions. Just like we had a discussion first in Piešťany, the first conference and just like Misha Mesezhniko and the friends from Institute of European Democrats know that there is already an earlier genesis of this, but we discussed in Piešťany how non-violence, consensus, soft power can be very strong and effective and sustainable, in particularly in our regions, which really appreciate these joint efforts going together. The fact that we have the family of ours now, it was the result of consensus. And our route towards Europe, again, after decades of autocracy and tyranny, requires not only political and economic transition, but also cultural and mental transition. It needs us to develop critical thinking, complex thought, as the world is more and more complex these days. Also in this post-truth era, where more and more it is the reliability, the reliance on feelings than facts. Thinking very carefully is very important in order to preserve our style of life. And this conference is not only a space for discussion, it is a call for action. And we are here to find practical solutions, empower citizens, and contribute to a more stable and prosperous Europe. We have to face this difficult era so that joint shared values prevail. This event is organized by the Institute of European Democrats under the auspices of Her Excellence Apoorva Srivastava, Ambassador of India to Slovakia, in partnership with the Slovak-India Friendship Society, and significant presence of the Euro-Atlantic Institute, the Institute for Public Affairs, ADAPT Institute, Confidence Slovakia, the Faculty of Political Science and International Relations, Otvorena hra, and Open Academy. Our deepest thanks to all of them for their commitment, something that will surely be an inspirational event. We very much appreciate the presence of Her Excellency, Madam Ambassador Srivastava, who will join us at 11 o'clock and will speak to us about very enriching approaches to our current topic. And now, if I may, I'd like to welcome the speakers of today. So I'll present the speakers of the first section. So please welcome Michal Burzako, the CEO of the Institute of European Democrats.
Good morning, everyone. And on behalf of Institute of European Democrats, thank you all for being here with us today in this nice view from here. My special gratitude for those ones making this event happen in this nice Bratislava and this magnificent Carton Hotel. I would like to remark the figures of Mario Nicolini, of Theobald Petrovic, and our Alice Bernard for their wonderful job and their involvement these last weeks. I'm very glad Mario mentioned to open this second event for our institute here in Slovakia after the last one and the first one we had last year in Pievstani. In this opportunity, we try to have a more integral approach from Central Europe, maybe instead of a more direct Slovakian-European dialogue perspective. I've always believed that Europe must be built bottom-up. And we do require an internal dialogue, in this case in Central Europe, to debate each other, to analyze where are our main challenges, to discuss and to conclude in some proposals that we can also directly talk in Brussels. Why not to try to solve, to give solutions to part of our main problems, providing solutions from regional territories. I do firmly believe this is one of the ways we must emphasize our work from our European institutes. And I do encourage you to keep on working, hopefully, within a next Slovakian partner for our ID, and the permanent activism of some people like Mario Nicolini, like Ivo Kaplan, both of them key persons for that regional understanding. Finally, we would like to work in a similar way ID has already developing very successfully in the Western Balkans, this time with the invaluable help of my good friend, Ambassador Miodrag Blahovic. Thank you, Micha, for being here. In the Western Balkans, since 2022, our institute has been able to build maybe one of the most relevant teams with different profiles, with different realities coming from different political parties, but offering a real, deep debate, providing innovative ideas, solutions that now we want to discuss within European authorities, basically to show concrete steps and possible alternatives around one issue, enlargement, that definitely it should become crucial for the future of Europe and for ourselves too. Hopefully, we will be able to do a similar creative and collective job here in Central Europe as well, and thanks to all your help. Enrico Letta, in his report, Much More Than a Market, mentioned not only the necessity for Europe to develop a real single market in priority areas like finance, energy, technology, communications, but also he described part of the big debilities of the present Europe. Among others, regulatory divergences between countries, divergences in electricity prices between countries, lack of interconnected markets, lack of robust infrastructure, networking along the continent, problem of accessing medicines in small places, lack of job opportunities in rural areas, growing inequalities between regions, between countries. In 2023, more than 60 million European citizens live in regions with GDP lower than 20 years before. Almost 10% of EU citizens do not have access to internet, and almost 3% they simply cannot afford an internet connection. And almost 3/4 of EU GDP originates in large cities versus rural areas. These are just one of the examples of the reality of Europe right now. Why don't we start to discuss part of these regional problems and to try to find common solutions to talk directly in Brussels? We are living, as Europeans, hard times, especially since 20th of January in Washington, and I'm afraid times to come are even harder. Trump administration is not particularly very friendly with Europe and European project and global instability, even more with the international agenda and conditions changing from Washington every day. It's not the best scenario for a Europe that really needs global market for our own growth and competitiveness. Until now, this is a personal view, Europe has shown some weakness trying to respond and accommodate to Washington fancies, like we were driving a conventional European car in American road, full of curves, but with no clear direction. In the meantime, Putin is playing his own game in Ukraine, and China is trying to be part of the European market and fulfill at the same time their over-industrial capacity. What we are doing as Europeans to preserve and to strengthen our project, what we are doing to demonstrate that Europe really wants our own space and presence in the world. From my understanding, we do have, above all, in our common project, two main obstacles. First is that lack of political leadership to face and to be in the same level that President Trump or Xi Jinping, and even in the same level that Modi, Erdogan, and Putin. And second is our internal governance of our own project. Just in this April, President Sanchez went to Beijing, Meloni to Washington, Orban to Moscow. And in a similar way, our political speech and formulas and eventual solutions are not the same and are significant different each other depending on our countries. I think it's time to react, it's time to make political decisions, it's time to raise European flags. But honestly, I don't expect big changes, definitely in the short term and before NATO summit in The Hague in the next month, as we are getting confused internally and long and hard debates about how much of our GDP we must dedicate to defense and security. That is precisely what Donald Trump wants for us. Just some weeks ago, Anna Galovichkova came to Basque Country, to a small town, Loyola, to know the origins and the family house of San Ignatius, the founder of the Jesuits, one of the main human contributions of the history. I would like to remark, by the way, a tribute to Pope Francisco, the first Jesuit Pope and the first Pope from Latin America. I think that Anna tried to get some spiritual inspiration or find the reasons why, from an isolated rural place, San Ignacio was able to find such an internal strength to build that huge project that started to change the Catholic Church from the inside. I had a coffee with Anna and her friend, another Anna. After that, I lied on one of the top of the mountain surroundings, trying to have some rest under the blue sky, and maybe following some of the birds of the unique Bob Dylan. Then I thought, beyond what we call hard work, beyond what we call the wars, the disputes between differents, maybe as Europeans, we should put a big part of our efforts in our own origins, in the values our European project was based on, and do something similar that San Ignacio did more than 500 years ago, to try to start a truth dialogue with other cultures, with the rest of the world, to create a real and one soul humanity. Thank you all.
Mikael, thank you so much for a substantial contribution at the beginning. You have mentioned Anka, Dr. Anna Galovichova, so thank you very much. I will now continue in my native tongue and language. Anka je zakladateľkou a prezidentkou spoločnosti Slovensko-indického priateľstva, bola si nevyhnutnou súčasťou organizácie. Nech sa páči, poď nám povedať zo pár slov. Anna Galovičová.
Milí priatelia, som hlboko dojatá, že sa
Dear friends, I am deeply honored that again we meet here in Bratislava after some time, and that we are all here. As it was said previously here, the main organizer is the Institute of European Democrats, and I highly appreciate that via Ivo Kaplan, the member of IED, who invited me 2 years ago to a similar conference to Prague 2 years ago, and introduced me those precious people who were building democracy in Europe. Mr. Kaplan introduced them in the following way. In the morning, we joined the meeting of Senate. The discussion was focused on liberal democracy. And in the afternoon, we went to Strahov, to the oldest bibliothek. And there, the discussion was on Christian spiritual democracy. And this really touched me, as since my 17 years, until today, I could focus on mental and spiritual development at the Charles University in Prague, and I could focus on these important ways how to develop a person. I understood how it was very important, and still I didn't expect that we would have this storm in Europe since the election of President Trump. So you understood that the roots are in India, in Shiva, these very beginnings of the proper development of a person. So I was really taught in these very important things, and it helped me to understand that the maturity of the person Bhagavad Gita, where it is said that a mature person is such who in these very storms can preserve his emotional balance. And this is one of the pillars of this, our second pillar and discussion here, to understand that we can really best ourselves, our co-citizens and other inhabitants of Europe when we will try to help others, not only to blame and not to blame the others. Already Edgar has said that it is very important to understand that our thought is oftentimes used only to a very low percent. So when we concentrate ourselves on external word without at the same time concentrating on our own thought and understanding our the functioning of our thought, we will not succeed to navigate ourselves well enough. Old Indian philosophy taught it, and very probably Professor Dean Ratore will talk about it as well. I welcome the gentleman. His travel here wasn't easy, and the gentleman will very probably talk us about the fact that India has brought as the first country about this one humankind, one society. It is very important to understand it. We all have to work on our emotional balance to understand it. Let's go back to the program agenda that we have today. And I'd like to mention the last year conference that we are talking not only liberal and spiritual democracy as democracies that go side by side. We also last year asked the Pope Francis to support this our thought, and we have received it from Holy Father. And there is no doubt that this power is here. If us, our institutions, our societies continue to have such trust. The director of the Institute of European Democrats said that he is from Loyola and that I have to go there as well. And yes, we were there together with my friend, and it inspired me that we should not orientate on the external world and blame others and search for the guilty ones there, but rather understand the internal word. And I'd like to conclude by an example. The fact that we are here today, it's not because together with Maria, Alice, and Mr. Petrovich, we spoke about it together. It has much deeper roots in the times when over 6 years I was communicating with Ivo Kaplan via the European Anti-Poverty Network. That is also why Mr. Kaplan invited me to Prague. And so all goes to the trust between Ivo Kaplan and the Institute of European Democrats, that they invited me to Venice last year, where also I had the opportunity to meet the management. They confirmed this very approach that we have here today. And just like Mario has said previously, it's no fatalism here. There's this mental fundament present. Us together, we are creating together with the external outer world. So just like today we see the sun rise in east, and we think that sun turns, revolves around the planet. Well, it's not us. We don't know that it's this Maya, that something is seen as something else. Thank you for joining us here today.
Anna, thank you very much for your kind words. We have a young leader joining us from France and from Brussels, Alice Bernard-Montini, who is the president of the Young Democrats for Europe. Alice, be welcome.
Mario, thank you very much for all of you to be there today. Thank you, obviously, to the Institute of European Democrats and to Ivo Kaplan to put this event, this call for action in place. I will try to not look too much at my note, because when you speak about call for action, I think that action is also taking a bit of risks. I'm the president of the Young Democrats for Europe, which is the youth organization of the European Democratic Party, which is a member of the Renew Europe group in the European Parliament. We do have 13 members of the Parliament that are specializing in many different subjects. And I think that today we go through a lot of those. If I remember well from the list of keywords I made, when we talk about trust and values, digital defense, resilience and sustainability, those are themes that run through across Europe, disregarding from where you come from, who you are, and what's your social situation. This concerns all of us. Today we are going to talk about values, among a lot of other things. I wanted to share with you a thought and a story. The thought would be that obviously if we are here today talking about democracy, talking about rule of law, talking about humanism, such values that we at the Young Democrats for Europe fight for and try to embody. If we are here to talk about that, it's because obviously we share them. But what does it really mean to share values or to embody values? This is a thought that's in my political little parcours, career, thank you. Well, no career yet, but in my journey. Yeah, my political journey. It's something that strikes me, because you can be pro-European, you can be, for example, pro-Ukrainian, you can be pro-democracy, sorry. But what does it mean in your day-to-day life? And to explain why I have this thought and why I have this question, I will tell you the story that happened to me 10 days ago. I was in Ukraine, going on a journey to meet the youth of Ukraine, the association that make a very important work to make life going on there, and yeah, to show them support as well as another political organization that has member in the European Parliament. And I met with this guy, which is my age, maybe younger, Alexander. Alexander told me about the start of the 2022 full-scale war when he was 18, just 18. And he told me, yes, on the day it happened, I went with my father. We went together to go to conscription, to go to the army, because we thought that it was the right thing to do as citizens. And my father and I go there, and so first, an action. No need for a call, they made the action. And then we got there, and they told to me, you are too young, please don't go, we don't need you now, so please go home. And they told to my father, you are too old, we don't need you for now, and we hope we won't need you anymore, so please go home. So you have those two people that are obviously engaging already, that are obviously wants to make a difference for their country, for freedom, for peace, for democracy. And they are here, and people tell them, don't go into the most obvious action right now. We don't need you. So what do you do? Are you stopping? Are you waiting for your turn? This is a tricky question, because obviously going into war is not a joke. It's not something that anyone can do with a free spirit. You can have values and valid reasons to want to protect what's yours and what is your country, your family, your values, but it's a tough decision. But when the most obvious choice is refused to you, what do? What is the action, the right one? And he told me that he felt guilty about not being on the front. He's 18 years old, I remember, just as a reminder. And you feel guilty of not being war at 18 years old. So he felt guilty, and even felt guilty for not being in Kyiv when Kyiv is in danger. And I have a thought right now, because yesterday Kyiv was under attack, a murderous attack. And to think, that's why I share this story, and that's why I want to share it with you. That struck me. Someone that is 18 years old at the time, less than 23 now, is currently saying that the best course of action for him was going to war. And now, he transformed these people that say no to him, and he said, okay, I will then engage in another way. And I met him in Kyiv when he told me this story, because he's the representative of a youth organization that gives funds to projects made by the youth in Ukraine. He's also doing translation, very good translation for people that are coming and visiting. He's also networking with lots of European organizations, because, well, Ukraine is a candidate for Europe. So now that we see that even in a society when you don't know what tomorrow is going to be, youth people, young people, and other generation as well, but obviously that was my point today, young people that have lots of years in front of them and don't know what's going to happen, will engage in any way, in cultural, political, sociological way, outside of the conflict itself, to make a change. And that's why it's important for me to say today that our conference is a call for action, of course, but it's also a call to join ongoing action. You don't need to, as you young people, create everything from scratch. You can join, you can share, you can empower the others, and maybe, as Anka was saying, a call from the heart. Joining the fight doesn't mean getting into it right up front, but every day knowing that the values you have, you can have a little impact on them for the next path. That was the main message from my introduction today, and I hope that today will be fruitful for you, will bring obviously a lot of thoughts, but will also push you maybe to call and join all of the speakers today and tell them, okay, maybe today I don't know what's my action, but what could I join? What could I do that is already existing and that is maybe little by little strengthening our common values and our common identity? Thank you very much.
Merci, Alice. Na záver vítam dlhoročného.
Thank you, Alice. And now let me welcome the long-term mayor of the city Gödöllő, Mr. Györgyi Yemesi. The floor is yours.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, first of all, I would like to tell you some words about me. I'm a mayor of Gödöllő. This is next to Budapest with 33,000 inhabitants. We have a beautiful palace like Pozsony, like Bratislava. And this was the favorite place for Sisi. He was the wife of Franz Josef, as you know. And I am a president of Association Hungarian Settlements. Hungarian local governments. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, thank you for the invitation. It is a great pleasure for me to be here at the conference on such an important topic. The title of conference is Central Europe Navigating to Storm. How can Europe's citizens engage to next decade? The topic is really close to me as a mayor, since I am in a everyday contact with municipality. That is their safety and well-being important to me. The current geopolitical and economic events in the world are warning and create a lot of uncertainty among people. A few hundred kilometers from here, the Russian-Ukrainian war is still going on. There is increasing uncertainty in Serbia. The current situation in Georgia is worrying. And although we are 1,000 kilometers from the United States, the impact of the processes there is felt all over the world. Insecurity leads to radicalization. And unfortunately, we see it not only in Eastern and Central Europe, but also in Western Europe too. There are currently 93,000 municipalities and regions in the European Union. One of them is Gödöllő, which, as a mayor, approach this topic from a local aspect. What can we do for the security of the citizens? It is enough to build strong economy. In part, yes, but economic security is not enough. I think that local community and identity strengthening programs are needed in which people do not distance themselves from each other, but build community and come closer to each other. This requires infrastructural developments, the right to a healthy life, correct health care program, strengthening education, quality culture, completely independent of politics, and an independent free press. And now let me return to the domestic voters. Today in Hungary,
as a result of the current government's centralization policy, the financial policy possibilities of local governments have completely narrowed, and they are finding it increasingly difficult or even unable to create the conditions necessary to strengthen the community. One example of this is that during the COVID period, local government took taxes that served as their own income, which have not received back or compensated for since. Education has been centralized. All local press is slowly being liquidated, while the national press has been taken over. Support is being withdrawn from culture institutions and civil society organizations, and we are not receiving funds for the infrastructure and healthcare development. All these measures are making people increasingly vulnerable. Our relation with the European Union is well known for you. And let's return to the title of the conference. I think that it is current situation. The solution is to provide European Union applications, opportunities that would be directly available specifically to the settlements and to the citizens of the settlements would thus benefit for them. It would not depend on the current governments who gets funds and who doesn't. Such solution can greatly help citizens living the settlements to feel that they have a say in the life of their settlements, countries, and the Union. The second option is to build the creation of the citizens to citizens relations. And here I mean the relation between European citizens. The twinning system between settlements is excellent for this, the strengthening of which makes it possible to get to know each other, to cooperate with each other, and to form close friendships, regardless of major political processes. The relation between people are always the strongest. In my opinion, we hardly can do anything with the power countries which are ruling the world. But strengthening these two things I mentioned will help a lot of European citizens to get over in the present situation and feel safe in our beloved or loved Europe. Thank you for the attention. I wish you a good conference for today.
Köszönöm szépen, Györgyi. Velmi pekne ďakujem.
Thank you very much, György, and thank you very much to all speakers so far, but we have already taken a little bit from the second panel that Ivo should chair. Very fast, the chair, Ivo Kaplan, the speakers will be Janko Fiegel, Gabi Schmidt, Professor Svetozar Krno, and Akshay. Well, the stage is yours.
Tak přeji dobrý den.
Very good morning, and I trust you won't mind that I will talk Czech. I could speak Slovak as well, but I would rather keep to my mother tongue. Dear friends, well, we have an exclusive panel here with us after equally wonderful addresses in the first panel. So today I am inviting you to listen to different opinions coming from different generational, regional positions, and I trust that this excellent introduction of this panel will be given to you by the former commissioner, the gentleman that has brought Slovakia to the EU 21 years ago. At the time, the gentleman was also the chairperson of the Christian Democratic Movement, and together with Otto Habsburg, they led Pan-Europe for many years. Mr. Fiegel, the floor is yours. Thank you, Ivo Kaplan, and thank you all and organizers in particularly for the invitation. I'm checking whether it is better to speak in Slovak, or English because of guests. Okay, well, Slovak has been chosen. So welcome in the heart of Europe, and I don't mean it in a geographic way, but rather mentally, which is even more important as Europe is rather a culture proof. I can mention that European and Israeli really relations are stronger than European Turkish, and that supports this culture importance. And at the same time, I'm very pleased that the fact that European Democrats and youth make it even broader. Also, it's very important that we go as far as India, which helps us to search for the root. My father, generations ago, would be happy to have our crisis, although I don't to belittle them. They couldn't find for the perspective of the country, as Slovakia was a totalitarian state, and half of my life I lived in that totalitarian state. And now I'm very happy I may participate in this very dialogue, as we could conclude that combat for freedom by joining the EU together with Czech Republic. And we became the members of this common family, European family. And since the fall of communism, we started to work on our tasks, but the work has not been finished. Enlargement of European Union has been considered as a difficult task, but it in fact meant Europeanization of EU, making it more European, because EU has been making itself more European, more perspective. And the fact that we haven't managed to accomplish this work in Balkans, in the East, causes significant pain and problems. We will have discussions, coffee and dinner, but at that very same time, many people will pay for this, also for these our failures. Clearly, we are not responsible for all those problems, but the thought of joint and peaceful Europe really needs more efforts, more wisdom than weapons. If somebody thinks that weapons will sort out the problems of war, it will create only a cycle from war to war. Wisdom is stronger than muscles. I cannot, well, I have nobody to quote at the moment, neither the former or current president of the strongest country. I like to quote Schuman, Adenauer, Monet, Gorbachev as well, who, and starting from John Paul II, as Europe is a civilization unit of two parts where the Western and Eastern should breathe together. Two lungs, and the response is extremism, radicalism, unfortunately. We need to return to common sense and to living consciousness. This is something very precious in today's politics, common sense and living conscience. As an example, I would like to mention that what our fathers had to deal with, well, I have aged a bit, so it fits to me. They managed, on the background of the biggest catastrophe, the things, but European solutions, they were always accompanied by crisis. Each crisis, each tragedy is an opportunity for change. It's a possibility for U-turn. It is possible. As an example, I'd like to mention France and Germany since the time of Bismarck led 3 devastating wars since 1871 to 1945. Millions of civilians and warriors were killed. But then, next 75 years, they managed, France and Germany, to live in such an integration which wasn't even thought before, and many understood it as treason, this kind of cooperation and collaboration. The integration underscores the joint currency, the borders. It is not an ideal world, but it is something which is much more positively responding to non-human, destructive relations of the previous 75 years. I don't talk about leaders, although it would be good, but I speak about nations, because all leaders die, they come and go. And to talk about Putin, Biden, Zelensky, Trump, and not nations would be a mistake. Yes, the leaders have key responsibility as they are signing different measures and actions. But just like they come, they leave, and it is the nations that have to live through those burdens of animosity. And this is something that we have to overcome. And this is probably also the aim of this event, to find and search for peace, which will be the fundament of stability and security and progress. These are no empty words. these fruits, results of public policies, international relations, and results of international law are very important. And I am persuaded that these aims are necessary and possible. And peace is not only necessary, but also possible, and would bring fruits to the entire world, not only Europe. It means benefit of the development of Europe to the outer world as well. This is how it was over centuries, millennia. And at the same time, I am persuaded that the principles of Schumann's plan, that will have 75 years already, shortly, when new Europe was born, but has not been completed. These plans are living. They may be applied, and they have to be applied wisely, not only from the position of coal and steel, but natural resources, information technologies, which are everywhere and influence all the sectors. And these strategic commodities and resources may help us to put together interests of all, and in particular superpowers. And thirdly, to compare the year 45 and 50 with today's age, where people speak about the war in Ukraine and the kind of power play between the power states. Well, that is unwise. Nazi Reich was combated, was won over. But to speak about the fact that this war, this may be a winner and loser, that is basically an illusion paid by the life of many innocent people. This war in our civilization era may not have a winner, but this war may be stopped, and new wars may be prevented by putting together the interests of the countries touched by these wars, just like Schuman and others have managed it those 75 years ago. So to apply this experience in a wise way is not the task for our parents, but for us. And what will come next will be based on what we do now. I'd like to wish all of us that such an understanding and decisions will dominate as Europe and the world as well may be changed. And we need this century to be more humane than the former one. It is not only possible, but also necessary. Thank you.
Alice Bernard Montini.
So now and then Alice Bernard has called us to action, and Jan Figel told us what to do. So please, every one of you, work in your fields, in your organizations, in your communities. Every voice will be joined in the whole universe and will impact others that you even may not know. It is a movement forward. Yesterday we had an afternoon with Marianne Gavenda, I'm sure you all know him in Slovakia, and he made an intro in this topic. Jan Figel continued now, and I'm very happy to welcome Gabi Schmidt, who was born 8 kilometers from the Schwarzenberg castle. You know that in Czech Republic, Mr. Karel Schwarzenberg was an important personality, because being an aristocrat, he also was a down-to-earth person talking to common people. And his father was a part of the resolution against the Nazism and the occupation of the Czech regions by the Germans. So that's why I think that it's a very actual that Gabi Schmidt continues after Jan Figel.
Europe, and one of my professions I'm in the government of the Bavaria, and it's why I do this for IED, why the next generation in Europe, they must stand more nearly than the last generation. We speak about Adenauer and de Gaulle, but nobody in the next generation knows who are these people. They have their own history. They have a much shorter history. I'm the last generation. I have two girls. They look at books about it, but they have not a feeling from this Europe. But I was born not so far from a border to our own communism system, to the border on the DDR. And I think this was the last history. We forgot to speak with young people about their own history, how it was to live in the communism system, how it was to live without the feeling from Europe. And that's the difference. The young people in the East, they are hungry, really hungry for Europe. They want to live the same system. Look at the cities. The cities are the same. The people sit on the street. They speak loud. That was not allowed in communist systems. And we, in the other part, I travel my whole young life to the south, why the east was closed. We have I have my first contacts to the east was 2022, and before I don't nothing about my neighbors. We can't visit them, and we don't know anything. And the other part of Europe, they don't know in the moment anything about the East, why they are so hungry for values, why they're so hungry for building trust, for strong communities, and for fair systems. And I think we can. Wait a moment. Thank you. I give you this. I need water. Yes, yeah, please, yes. And this is why we need. Thank you. We need the mix from these young people. The last wars, there was inside Europe. This was citizen wars. The last citizen wars in Spain, and in the Basque Country there was a citizen war. This citizen war in the Basque Country, they make their own freedom. They have a big fight and make their own freedom, but they don't know systems on the East. And in the last 10 days, I was traveling around the East for the Bavarian government. I start in Gdansk, and this is where we start a new kind of Europe. Where we started with freedom, by you with the Velvet Revolution, in the Baltic state with the singing revolutions, in Poland with Solidarność. And I think the people, the young people by us and in the south are really sad, and it is normal to have peace. We speak about old things, but for them, for their whole life, was really normal to have peace and have a free life and can stay on every place. And what's normal is not fine. As everything there, they are not normal, and when you became on the top, that's much better. And I think we need a lot more contacts between the east of Europe and the south of Europe. We as German, we stand between. We know now every side. And I think what's heavy is as well is a war in the Ukraine, and Slovakia have not clear sentence to this. This change all the time, and I think we must stay together. This is the last border for democracy before the Russian. Real before, I was at a security conference in Munich and in Helsinki as well, and we have big problems. They spy all our important things where we make energy and everything, and they make terror inside the internet, in communities. They change all the things inside the internet. It's a real problem, and they do this why they want to stop a democratic system. And this is the one of our problems on this border to Russia, and this is a big border. Belarus is the same, and Hungary is not every time a friend of Europe. He make this with one vote. He give us a blockade, and this is a big problem. And I think that this system can only change young people, the next generation, and they only be a strong partner inside, and they have trust in us when we don't change every year the laws. When it's better for the people in politics, we change laws. Don't give trust for the next generation. we have a problem with corruption in many of our countries. We must stop corruption. That everybody and every people have the same rules. When you have not the feeling of same rules, you need money or you need contacts or anything else. This gives no trust for Europe, nothing. And we have a big problem with extremists, and extremists are only there when we don't speak about our history. This was one of the things that make the Baltic states really good. They don't speak about the history in the Second War. They speak, every young people goes to school, in every half year they have one day they speak about the time inside a communism system and inside this old system. And all the young children know what this was not fine in this time. And I think this is a German problem in the moment, while we have half and half our country. They never ever speak about their history inside this system, and they glorify this system, and this is a big problem. But nobody wants to go back in such system. The best what we ever had, please look on this card, is Europe, to have this peace. And you speak about the refugees can be the next time problems, but I live in my district, is a small city, it's called Zündorf. There are living 20,000 people. And in this city, come for the last 16 years, in the middle, every week, 1,000 people from all of the world. Why? This is a station where they come first when they come to Germany and to Bavaria. And from them, they will bring them new places and villages where nobody lives, only old people, and it was a good change. And the first one, I remember me as I was a child. This was people from the Balkan states. They fly from a war. And for the next generation, it is normal to make holidays in Rome, Paris, New York, and you saw in every city a mixed situation of people. We same a mixed. I'm Franconian. We are the biggest mix inside Europe. All the in the history, all they travel and have children by us. This is no problem. When I make a test, a little bit Czechian, a little bit France. They come in the 17th century to us. We always was a mix, and that was in the Baltic states. The young people ask me all, oh, you have problem with refugees. Oh, we see it in the television, you have problems with refugees. Yes, we have with one of them problems. There are a lot, but we have with one of Germans problem as well. We must be fair and not only saw a news that only the refugee makes the problem. We must build trust. That's every people they make a mistake, go do the same law. That's what trust is, and not the color of his face. And that's true and that's real. And I'm proud of the next generation. And we must tell them, Europe is really important for you. There's no better things on the whole world. Take a look, is it nothing better? We must show the young people in the south how fine is Europe and how hard is the step to be a European people. And you must give all of the new European people the chance to build their own Europe with us and together.
Tak děkuji moc, paní
Thank you very much, Vice President of Institute of European Democrats. You very nicely said that we all have come from somewhere, but we are all Europeans. This is something I've been seeing as very important for 1/4 of century. However, it is important how to explain it to all those common people, young people in those small villages, so that they wouldn't become the victims of the fake news. We can talk about it a lot, but it is very important to do something in this era. The next speaker is a very typical representative, and the Christian name Svetozar is a beautiful name meaning light, and my name is also interesting because it means the type of a tree. Let us not be afraid of kind of making ourselves, but being open. And so the Professor Svetozar Kano is the author of 14 books, Nepal in Monsoon, Closing, or the way trajectory towards the polar light. So very kind of parallel topics of this conference. And 2,000 kilometers from Aden, Iron Gate to Jevin. I don't know whether you went on foot such a distance. Jevin castle and important place to visit, and very symbolic, I have to say. The floor is yours, Professor. Thank you very much. I won't talk about it because we would really speak a lot. This 3 months of a pilgrimage towards Jevin, that would be difficult to talk about. And long, I have to say. European identity is being talked a lot about, but oftentimes, and it's a human feature, that sometimes we put our honest efforts behind reality. And really, in the past months, many surprises occurred in Europe. But let's talk about some very important and basic features that characterize Europe. Dr. Anka has talked about Indian traditions. I will go back to Europe for a while, as we belong to that half of the humankind where there is strong anthropocentrism. It is an heritage from Renaissance. When we go through whichever Italian town, sometimes we are not aware that Homo sapiens is one of 8 millions of human species. This anthropocentrism is related to this egocentrism. We don't change these things. We simply have to work with them and to cultivate them. Another example, the most others are not in Azerbaijan, but in Iran. And the most Tajikistan don't live in their country. And equally, the most Mongols are not in Mongolia, but in China. So our countries were created usually as ethnic countries. We won't ethnic nations. We won't change it, but we have to work with it. European civilization has given a lot to the world, but sometimes we go from this ethnocentrism to European centrism. Yes, let's be proud that we are Europeans, but we are only a tiny part of that 8 billion Europe. In fact, only half billion, if I say it in figures. Well, it is good that we usually add this word European. It is ours, but sometimes we use it as something which is automatically good and universal and valid for those 8 billions. And there is some kind of contradiction as well. European identity is not always understood, which is a pity, as something applied to all Europe. Even geographers sometimes are not unified on what are European borders. In some countries, the biggest mountain is Mont Blanc. In some other part, it's the Elbrus. And Elbrus is northern of Caucasus. Caucasus. Well, I work in schooling. We often mention European philosophers, but usually we mention them from this one part of Lang, as mentioned. When speaking about Byzantium, we somehow include in it a little bit of pejorative meaning. And when the West European Empire collapsed, the Eastern Empire lived 1,000 years longer. And Byzantinians, they themselves, East Roman Empire, considered themselves as continuation. So there is some contradiction, West and East. But from history, we know that if there was some kind of a tension, usually it was between North and South. And India has become the most populated country. But I go to China now. When you go to Xinjiang in the West and you go by this express train to the eastern border, you see a significant contrast between West and East, but sometimes different one as we perceive it here. So if we want to change something for better, just like Dr. Anka has said, we need to know ourselves. Sometimes the technological means are stronger than us humans, so I had to change the mic. One of the biggest, the greatest philosophers who reacted to our European traditions, Hegel, spoke about the law, negation of negation, that after a certain period of development, the next one comes, which defeats the previous one. Not that it would improve it, but it wins over the previous stage of development. And us, we have to become aware that it is belonging to our tradition, but it's not the way of solving the situation. Chinese Engange speaks about the contradiction, but says that the first contradiction cannot live without the other one. The energy passes from one to another, but if the second damaged the first one, or vice versa, it would be damaged as well. Two more comments. Sometimes we used to demonize the word Balkan. And there are two well-known writers, Jules Verne and his artworks, good quality novels from him, and Stoker with his Dracula novels. Which of those novels were more popular or are more popular? I don't want to talk about the pains that we feel here in Slovakia, but our current representatives, even known journalists, also those that you would not place here at this table, have the same opinion about the adjective Carpathians. They perceived it in a pejorative way. And this should not be our way of talking, adding this pejorative dimension to it. Thank you very much, Professor.
Důležité, že celou tuto seanci dnešní nahráváme. A já si myslím, že jsou tady i mezi námi ti, kteří to mohou pak poslat k významným představitelům jednotlivých zemí. Jinak je tady z 10 zemí, 9 evropských a Indie. Jsou tady zástupci, takže věřím, že vaše slova, pane profesore, nezůstanou v tomto sále, ale že se budou šířit, protože co jinak, než tady řekl pan exkomisař Figel, dělat, než využít té naší vědomosti evropské, toho, že vlastně od renesanční doby my tady 500 let se snažíme.
From the Renaissance times, we try to create a more fair society where one is helping to another, but at the same time we follow our own goals. These are two opposite things from one point of view, but on the other hand are mutually supportive. So this is a European version of the yin and yang opposition, maybe. I could refer back to yesterday's paper by Mr. Gavenda, that this opposition from the first point will be made clearer by him when he joins us. So we should help each other. And the open society represented by our last speaker, Mr. Michal Šoltes, and the open play or open game, they say that life is based on authentic communication that increases the engagement and happiness of people, or welfare of people at work, and the personal motto. His personal motto is that I don't believe there is only one best communication method that will solve our problems. Communication mastery is based on how many options we have at our hand and how good skilled we are to select the best. So the floor is yours. Thank you. I would like to add some more ideas that came to my mind when I was listening to you, and it's from the point of view of entrepreneur and philosopher, who I was in the entrepreneurship for 12 years. And at the beginning of my business, I thought why people fail in their communications, why they have conflicts, despite there are no real reasons in the background. Let me show you an example. During Easter, we spent the weekend with our friends in a chalet. My friend has a girlfriend. They had an argument in the morning, and then they couldn't speak together for the rest of the day, and there was this ego and one sentence that was not misunderstood. And they were discussing about going out and telling the other partner whether he wants or not, doesn't want to go out, etc. So the point is that they had to communicate it properly in order to obtain a better result. So this is what I think about what we can do about our communications and about our ego, which is behind, in order not to communicate or create conflicts due to some tiny words, and that the conflicts last afterwards for longer times, for years, and we lose contact with those people. We say there is a big crisis of leadership today. We've been working with hundreds of leaders in the past 10 years. There are entrepreneurs, big entrepreneurs, but also teachers. Well, I don't think there is a lack of leaders in Slovakia in general, but what I have seen is that they don't know each other. They do not network. I meet them every day, one by another. They tell me all the same thing, that they would like to create a good society, but they do not interconnect. They don't network. They don't know each other. And that's something that I can see not only on the local level, but also on the European level, that we have enough leaders, but what we need to do is to open the communication channels in order to interconnect, to meet more, to speak together or to each other more, and to know how many other people there are out in the world that share the same ideas that I do. Because these leaders I know feel very lonely. They feel they're not supported by the society, by the country, and they burn out because they work hard for 12, 14, 16 hours a day, and they feel very lonely. So that's why I think that they should interconnect, they should network to be able to share their experience and their thoughts. So this should be supported. And to conclude, I would like to share with you a philosophical phenomenon. When you're in a relation 1 year, 10, 20 or more years, gradually our brain focuses on what is wrong, what is in opposition with our inner world, as compared to what we like. And that is obviously, yeah, with my wife, we rather see how the toothpaste was not closed properly or something else. And we start to ignore the reasons why we are together. And I think this is what we should do about our minds in Europe as well, and to realize the reasons why we are together, the things that we do like about the others, and to make it in a harmonious way, in the yin and yang aspect or approach, in order not to focus on things that separate us or that make us different. So I wish us all to find as many common things as possible. Thank you very much. So Michael Scholtes remembered about what we talked together and about the conclusion that we came to yesterday, that we should be united and we should find points that we have in common, because the politicians are voted or elected by us, and this is what should be born in our minds. So if we think better, if we will have better politicians in the heads of our countries as well. I think it is impossible to have better leaders than we ourselves are. So we should do our best to be the best versions of ourselves in order to have good or the best leaders. We have the representative of Young Anna Galovichova, Mario Nicolini. These are the people who have united us here to have us, about 100 of us here today, and to speak about how to put Europe together, to be able to breathe from to the full of lungs. Gabi Schmidt told me an incredible thing that she prefers traveling to Prague than to Munich. And we have the representative, Mr. Figel, who is the one who led Slovakia to Europe, and he worked with Otto von Habsburg. So he is the one who would be able to remind us of the beginnings of the European project. So I would like to ask him to remind us of this, because Edvard Beneš told at the time, he made a prologue, which was very nice, despite the fact that he didn't follow the ideas in his acts later on. And unfortunately, the next decade, it was not a very successful way. So, Mr. Figel, a few words. Well, what would I add? Verba vocant exempli trahunt. Beneš's words were not enough, and Schumann's deeds are still alive. I hope you understand what what I mean. Deeds are the fruit, and the fruit depends from the roots. Roots are not the past. Roots are still necessary, and we need them to be vital in the past and in today. And what we do is we forget about the roots. Community is the way to communion. Everybody needs somebody. We need somebody else. Being alone and lonely makes no sense. We can only be happy in a relation. Individualism is one extreme point, and collectivism is the opposite extreme. The middle way is personalism. That means everyone is an original, no one can be copied. I hope we won't be cloning people. And in this originality, everyone is invited to the sense of the world. Viktor Frankl said that the way is no there where there is will, but where is sense, there is the will, and when there is a will, there is a way. So searching for the sense is a very important in Europe, but for the Europe as a whole, there was the motto, Europe, whole and free. But freedom is not the highest value because it depends on truth. The truth will prevail was on the Czechoslovak standard. Freedom is depending a daughter of a mother who is truth. Americans or the USA, as the most powerful country, have the big responsibility. There is the Statue of Liberty, which is the statue of responsibility. Freedom without responsibility is suicidal. It will collapse. If you try to bring up your children in a total freedom, you and your children will be unhappy. We teach all the laws, but who is the responsible? Is it the mayor of Gedele, or the prime minister, or myself as a father and a spouse and a citizen? If we don't teach this balance in communication and building up community and free society, for the sake of rule of law and equality, we won't go further. And I've been saying that for generations. So we should return to the way that the founding fathers engaged. We should differentiate the different fruits. We shouldn't be afraid that we are only 100 of us. We should interconnect and form history. History has always been formed by minorities. The majorities have always joined later on, but the creative minorities were those who were able to shift history. Revolution is either moral or it is not a revolution, because it is a U-turn.
None. Only a slogan or abuse of words. That's
what I wanted to share with you. These are big ideas of the founding fathers, and we should keep them in our mind. Long life learning is a principle, but we should be aware of what we learn and from whom. We should learn maturity, we should learn wisdom. Only this can create the Europe as a whole, or complete Europe as a whole. And that's a vision. And the Central Europe, which was either the place of fights or the place of confrontation, could bring this perception between the East and the West and the North and the South. Because if the Central Europe does not remain an island, but will become a bridge, then Central Europe will be able to unite Europe. A 21-year-old adult should already know the way, and I hope that it will last.
Ambassadors of India and the Slovak Republic, Porvas Vastava. Her Excellency, let us some questions to this panel, and afterwards the floor will be yours. Takže teď prosím, jestli máte právě nějaké otázky k tomu, co tady v tom
So do you have any questions in the public when it comes to the ideas in this panel? Then we will proceed to a lunch where you could share the ideas in smaller discussions, but I think that ideas should be heard by all of us. Pope Francis used to say that we should calm down and listen to the others, because when we listen to the others, we are active. And it is a hard task to listen to others actively. So there is the question, could you tell us who you are, where you come from? I am Fero Balka. I am the president of the civic organization for the support of democracy. I used to be a director of a joint stock company when there was the reform of finance. I used to be a mayor, but from that point on, I try to understand why there are three crises: in economy, in ecology, and in ethics in the world. And I came to the conclusion that we solve the problems of the politicians, but every politician had his parents and teachers. Why don't we solve or search for solutions from that end? So the question is, why don't we go back to roots? Because the politicians were somehow found or elected. They were not forced to take over those positions, but they were elected by some majority that was formed. In the Czech Republic, it's the other way round. We lost 1 million votes. So 16% of votes were lost because the people did not show up for elections. So we have a constellation in our government that doesn't go forward, although they are Democrats. So the situation is terrible. The situation in Slovakia is rather different, or the other way around. So Gabi wants to say something.
There, I think we need a system in the whole of Europe, a really fair voting system, and we need a system the best in the whole of the world. Look at the USA, how many votes go lost and how many people can go for registration. They have a same problem. We have in Bavaria a really fair system, but only in Bavaria and in Thüringen and in Brandenburg and the rest of Germany we have them not so well. We have a system, you have two voices and you can put people from behind before. One is for the party and you can vote every party, but this is a big chance for the people and then mayors and people that make a really good job inside the country. They can be elected in the front. When the people like them and they say they make a good job, they can vote before. And this is a real problem. We speak really often in Brussels and Strasbourg about this. We speak about many problems, what we must go the same way in Europe. And we know didn't know the same way for Grumbers, but we did the same way for votes and elections.
Tak další dotaz, prosím. Máte v tom Německu, máte právě, jste si...
But in Germany, what you did is that you did a good voting system, because in France it's the opposite. They like expel the most extremes. So that's our hopes turn to Germany and to the next elections, and I do believe that they will bring a big change forward. More questions? There are more representatives of the big countries among us here, and for us in our small countries it is very important who are the leaders of the big countries, because it is psychologically transmitted from the big countries to the smaller ones, and sometimes, but sometimes it does not work because we can see all what is going on now after the 20th January 2025. I think this date will enter the history.
Say to us what you have on the heart.
Perfect, thank you. So good afternoon, all of you. Distinguished members of Institute of European Democrats, ladies and gentlemen. What an honor to be here, to be speaking in front of such a distinguished gathering. I had the privilege of meeting some of you in your conference last year in Piaciani. And as Ambassador of India, I stand before you not only as a representative of a vibrant democracy, the most populous country, 1.4 billion people, but also as a bridge connecting the spiritual, cultural, economic, and strategic depth of India with the evolving dynamism of Europe and Slovakia in particular. So, as India, today I would like to speak about India and EU because that's more in my domain rather than the various discussions and the themes that you are discussing. So at the outset, let me acknowledge the enduring bond between India and European Union, and it is rooted, of course, in shared values, democratic traditions, and a common vision for a multipolar, rule-based global order. India and EU both advocate the effective multilateralism and increasing considerate to each other's geopolitical, economic, strategic, and security concerns. And these are not just diplomatic talking points. They reflect the reality of a deepening partnership grounded in mutual respect and strategic convergence. So there has been recent high-level exchanges which underscore this growing engagement. The visit by President of European Commission, accompanied by the entire EU College of Commissioners in February, marked a historic moment in our ties. They all went to India. And never before has the Commission engaged with a single country on such a comprehensive scale. And this speaks volumes not only about India's growing stature, but also about Europe's recognition of India's pivotal role in shaping the future. Of course, we engage with all the countries bilaterally, but as European Commission also we continue to engage. European Union has been our strategic partner for last 20 years. If we look at the economic engagement, the engagement is robust and on upward trajectory. Bilateral trade in goods has crossed more than 125 billion euros, and service trade is growing impressive at 30%. But even more important than where we are today is where we are headed. So currently India's GDP stands at approximately 3.75 trillion, and by the end of this decade, it will double. And by the time it's 2047, which is centenary of our independence, we aim to be a developed country and the second largest economy at that point of time. This growth is not merely numerical. It reflects the aspirations of 1.4 billion people who are moving forward with determination. Europe must prepare not just for India of today, but for the India that is emerging, economically potent, strategically significant, and spiritually enduring. This is where I believe India holds unique importance for Europe, not merely as a partner in commerce or in security, but as a civilizational ally. India's strength lies not in its demographic dividend, technological prowess, or economic potential, but also in its spiritual wealth. The Indian worldview, rooted in the concepts of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, that the world is one family, and Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, may all be happy, offer an enduring value system for an increasing fragmented world. I want to talk specifically about India, Slovakia at this point of time. So we are geographically apart, but of course there's a strong connection. Recently we had the visit of the Honorable President of India to Slovakia just 10 days ago, and it was one of the most successful visits. There's an increase in trade with 1.3 billion euros. More and more Indians are coming to work here. The numbers have reached to 6,000 people now, and more are willing to come. There's an increase of students coming here. And we are focusing on new areas like higher education, in defense collaboration, renewable energy, and digital technologies. When we come back to Europe, I think there are a few areas where India and Europe and Slovakia can cooperate further. Of course, it's trade and investment. There is, of course, the issue of supply chain resilience, connectivity. You might have heard about India, Middle East, European Economic Corridor, which was launched during a G20 summit, which was held in India. It is a visionary project. Then, of course, on technological innovation, climate change and green energy, defense cooperation, security cooperation. You must have heard 2 days ago there was a ghastly terrorist attack in India where 28 tourists were killed by terrorists in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir. So these are the areas, in security, cooperation. We have to work together. And of course, people-to-people ties, because more and more Indians are working and studying in European countries, contributing to the economy. But streamlining migration and mobility pathways, including Schengen visas and blue cards, I think they must be made top priority. We are also discussing the trade agreement with Europe and the European Commission with the visit. It was decided that by the end of this year, this trade agreement should be finalized. Of course, there's technological committee also. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, India and Europe together represent the largest democracy and free market space globally. And the world is undergoing a period of profound transformation, geopolitically, economically, and technologically. And in this shifting landscapes, our partnership is not a luxury, it is a necessity. So let us anchor our cooperation not only in transactional terms, but in transformational vision. Let us draw from our democratic values, spiritual traditions, and strategic interests to build a partnership that is truly global in scale and human in essence. So let us walk in this path together towards a more developed and sane world. Thank you. Dakuem, dhanyavad.
Thank you so much, Excellency, also for the wise words, following up and segueing very nicely into what has already been said by the first splendid panel, and of course, on the heels of the welcoming remarks of all four speakers. At this stage, only housekeeping is left. And I'll switch back into Slovak. Ďakujeme veľmi pekne.
Thank you very much for the series of excellent addresses and very fruitful discussions. At the moment, only a technical information. You all are invited to lunch. And the next panel, or in other words, two activities, will start at 1:15. So 1:10, let's wake up after the lunch pause and let us continue. And those that will participate in a round table of young people, you are invited to join the meeting in the adjacent room, and you will join us a little bit later when in the next panel you will talk about the conclusions of your discussion. So us as well, we will benefit by listening to what young generation will tell us. At the moment, thank you and bon appétit.